Our newly elected Premier, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, is expected to announce his cabinet today. Lesufi is tackling corruption and boosting the province's economy, and he says these are projects that are at the top of his agenda. Meanwhile, the ANC is threatening to gain power in Ekurhuleni following the ousting of DA Mayor Mpho last week. To speak about that and more, as well as the road to the 2024 general elections, I'm joined now by public policy specialist Dr. TK Pooe. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Doc. Developments in the province have been quite interesting over the last few days, from the axing of Mpho and, of course, now Panyaza Lesufi taking the reins as Premier. Widely expected that it would happen when we saw the voting take place. Just your thoughts on him before we get into the specifics of the cabinet that he's set to put into place, as well as his priorities that he should focus on in the province.
Well, no, thanks for having me. Look, I think two observations. One, he's actually got a mammoth task ahead of him. If you look at just the economy of Gauteng, and one only has to read the socioeconomic review for 2022 from the Gauteng government itself, where, look, the economy since 2016 has actually been going the wrong way. So can he really arrest that? You know, it's a big question, because he has, like, I think till 2024, another 2 years, and it's quite rare that you could actually just bolster the economy in that amount of time. So that's the first thing. And then, look, secondly, will be the issue of legacy. You know, people have now sort of got tired a bit of the ANC to say, listen, you can no longer keep harping on about being the party of liberation. You need to be about the party that gives us bread and butter. So it could be unfortunate for him that his legacy could be the last premier from the ANC. So those two things for me are really what stand true. The issue of what is his legacy going to be, and it's going to be defined in 2024. And also, look, can he really fix the economy? And that's where we've seen not just Gauteng ANC, but the ANC in general really does struggle with that big question.
And that's quite important, this issue of the legacy that he'll leave behind. Should it be that he is the last premier from the ANC after the 2024 elections? So the cabinet that he's going to be putting in place is going to be absolutely crucial in contributing to that legacy that you speak of.
Well, look, I'll probably take a different tact, I think, to most observations on this. That is, sometimes we treat the ANC and these elections as though this new one person is going to do something so dramatically different to the other one, forgetting that, look, this is a party that's been in power, especially in Gauteng, for the last 2 decades. So I treat the ANC as one entity, and that an individual is coming in for the next 2 years. Well, look, it's good for him, and we'll see whether he is an outstanding person in leadership or simply just another, carbon copy of what the ANC has done. So I think the way I choose to look at it is to say, when I say it could be the last one, is I put it as a question mark. It's not a given. I don't think I can't foresee what elections really do, but it could be. But for me, the issue of saying he's given himself a good 2 years to really say to the Gauteng public, look, the ANC is a bit different, but it'll be interesting to see where they can actually get away from, what I call the politics, which has actually made the ANC poorer in the province, which is, and I see he's already sort of trying to take that tact away to say, listen, he wants to be more open, he wants to discuss, but that's not what people are really looking for. It's an issue of saying, what new thing are you going to give us, and can it really address the big issues? And if he cannot really bring that discussion to the table, but he seems to just be another friendly person willing to talk, everybody knows what the problems are. We don't need a discussion. What people want to see is, can you be different in actually implementing a lot of the things which have been ailing the province and also your party?
How easy is it going to be to do, Dr. TK, because we are seeing a lot of fighting amongst the coalition governments across parts of the province. We saw what happened with Mpho, and we're seeing the developments in Ekurhuleni. So that noise, that political noise that's currently unfolding, may hinder the task at hand from the Premier and his cabinet.
Well, it could work in 2 ways. One, the issues or the ructions that we've seen in the city of Joburg and that could be spreading to other metros could actually be a positive for him, because he's already started to, if you listen to the discussion he had with one of your anchors last night, he said, listen, the coalition, or the idea of a coalition, is actually showing people in Gauteng that perhaps it's better to trust the devil you know than the devils you don't know, because they could actually make a lot of noise. Now, it's a good argument to make, but I don't think it's one where people really want to hear. And also, look, there's also the danger that, that, look, these ruptions are happening. And do you really, and I think it's a question the ANC really does need to, I think, more ponder about, do they really want to come into a situation where they themselves will be almost, held to ransom about what these coalitions are? Yes, ideally they would have liked a clean win, but maybe they should actually be reflecting what is it like to be in coalition, to actually be listening to the population, say, listen, we can kind of see where we went wrong in this. Let's give you something different. But again, it's going to go to the point of, is he something different, or is he still part and parcel of an ANC which is unwilling to understand that, look, dynamics have changed in Gauteng in South Africa, and they need to be a bit more humble in how they address certain problems. Because a rush to saying, listen, we want to be mayors, it's not actually the greatest thing in the world. And internationally, sometimes actually proves to be a bit of a problematic way. Because whenever you go into the elections on the back of these things, and if it's not been working, people are not going to say, well, it was a coalition. They're going to say, but no, you guys took over and you didn't do anything different. So I think the ANC in Gauteng probably needs to ponder about the steps rather than just simply saying, let's just assume as much power as possible.
And one would assume that it would be very difficult for a body like the ANC to adapt to the current times and the changes that we've seen, given that they've done the same thing in basically the same way for over 2 decades. Doc, let's discuss the developments in Ekurhuleni. What is your assessment of what is currently unfolding there? Are we likely to see a situation that we saw within the Joburg Council?
Well, look, I think as it's always, I think as the coalition did put it out that, listen, the agreement, which I always found it to be a flimsical one, which they made, was that it wasn't just an agreement for the city of Joburg, but was for all the metros that were involved in it, to say if something were to happen in X metro, it affects them wholly. Now, I think what is probably, and I'm not good at saying what's going to happen, I'd rather say what is going to be interesting is 2 things. One, the reflections of the Democratic Alliance. Are they going to be able to actually learn what happened in the city of Joburg? And what a lot of people have said, and even political parties and partners of the DA at the time said, is that there's an arrogance about the party. That's the first thing. Secondly, they actually don't allow their mayors to practice what the DA is supposedly famous for, which is to be a Federalist Party, which is to say, you're in the city, you're in the region, you know best what people want there. The party at national is simply there to help you. The DA did not follow through with those things. In fact, they wanted to seemingly want more power in the city of Joburg. So it will be interesting to see whether they'll take a different tack. Parties such as the Action SA and other coalition partners, I think, would be more willing to listen to a more humbled version of the DA. So it's not going to be a given that the ANC does take over. So it's going to be, for me, that's probably a more interesting thing. Does the DA learn? And do partners in the current coalition, the city of Ekurhuleni, are they willing to give the DA a different, a different response as opposed to the one which they did in the city of Joburg? So it's going to be interesting to see how that really plays out.